Mr. Chair, we are now live.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Town of Ajax Committee of Adjustment meeting for July 28th, 2021. This meeting of the Committee of Adjustment is being held electronically and live streamed on the internet. Due to the COVID-19 emergency and requirements for physical distancing, no in-person attendance is permitted at this meeting. All regular practices and procedures of the committee continue to apply during this electronic meeting. If we encounter any technical difficulties, we may take a brief recess while they are resolved. Thank you for your patience, and we will now proceed with the meeting. Before moving on to the application portion of this evening's meeting, I would like to confirm whether there are any disclosures of interest from members of committee.
No, there isn't.
Great, thank you. Seeing none. And if we can look for adoption of the minutes from the June 30th Committee of Adjustment meeting. Cecil, I think I saw you first. And do we have a seconder?
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt the minutes.
Great, thank you, Cecil. And seconded by Lori, thank you. And all those in favor? Great, the minutes from the June 30th meeting have been adopted. The committee is bound by the Planning Act to assess each application based on its ability to meet 4 tests: that the application is minor in nature, is desirable for the appropriate development or use of the lands, and finally is in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. The process for tonight's meeting will be conducted in the following manner. The applicant and/or agent will be called upon and at their option may provide a brief description of the minor variance application they have applied for. Committee members may ask questions of the applicant and/or agent, after which anyone with a direct interest in the application will be given the opportunity to speak either for or against the application. Once a motion is put forward by a committee member, there will be no further input from the applicant or anyone having interest in the application. After a decision is made, notice will be sent out and there will be a 20-day appeal period. Anyone having interest in the application may appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal within 20 days of the decision of the committee. After 20 days, the decision will become final and binding. If a building permit or other approvals are required, they may be filed during the appeal period. However, no building permits will be issued until the appeal period is over and the decision becomes final and binding. A respectful decorum during this evening's proceedings is expected of all present at all times. Beginning with introductions of committee members with us this evening, we have Cecil Romnath, Lori Roberts, and I'm the chair of the committee, Greg Whitfield. And with us from town staff, we have Eric Simpson, senior planner and acting secretary treasurer for the town of Ajax. First application for this evening's meeting is application A23/21 for 110 Christina Crescent. The variance requested is to permit a minimum setback from the exterior side lot line of 2 meters for an accessory building or structure, where the bylaw requires a minimum setback of 5 meters from any exterior lot line, and to permit a maximum driveway width of 8.5 meters, where the bylaw permits a maximum driveway width of 6.1 meters. Eric, was notice served and were any responses received?
Notice was served and 2 responses were received, 1 email in support and 1 voice message in support of the application, which were provided to the committee.
Great, thank you. I believe all committee members are in receipt of that. Okay, for the applicant, staff have recommended approval of the application subject to 3 conditions within the staff report. 1, that the subject variances apply only to the property municipally known as 110 Christina Crescent and as illustrated in figure 2 of the report, or this decision shall become null and void. 2, that the owner or applicant obtain a building permit from the town's building services section, or this decision shall become null and void. And 3, that the owner or applicant comply with all conditions of the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority permit number C-200896. For the applicant, have you received a copy of this report?
Sorry.
Do we have the applicant for?
Sorry. Yes, I have received it.
Okay.
I did receive that.
Great.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't unmute.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Nope, that's not a problem. Do you have any questions or comments on the conditions recommended by staff?
No, it was all pretty straightforward. It sounds like TRCA was good with the revision, so not unless anybody has any questions for me, I guess.
Great, thank you. If there's any comments you want to provide to us, now is your opportunity. Otherwise, I'll defer to my fellow committee members.
No, the report was pretty straightforward. So we'll just, if we get approved, we'll be applying for the permit immediately. That was after the 20-day period, and hopefully get this started later this year.
Great, thank you. And just sorry, just for the minutes, would you mind introducing yourself?
Oh, sorry, Lowell Lyons.
Great, thank you. Okay, do any members of committee have any questions for the applicant? Seeing none. Laura, you're muted. I'm not sure if you said something there. No, okay, great. Okay, is there anyone here to speak either for or against the application this evening? Seeing none. In that case, if we can look for a motion, please. Lori?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move that we approve minor variance A 23-21 for 110 Christina Crescent, as it is minor and meets all 4 tests, and provided that the 3 conditions are met.
Great, thank you. And a seconder, seconded by Cecil, thank you. All those in favor? Great, application A 23/21 for 110 Christina Crescent is approved, subject to the 20-day appeal period and the conditions within the staff report.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too.
Okay. Moving on to application A 24/21 for 94 Chapman Drive. The variance requested is to permit a minimum aggregate setback between uncovered steps and an adjacent dwelling of 1 meter, where the bylaw requires a minimum aggregate setback between dwellings of 1.2 meters. Eric, was notice served and were any responses received?
Notice was served and no responses were received.
Great, thank you. For the applicant, staff have written a report recommending approval of the application subject to 3 conditions. 1, that the subject variance apply only to the property municipally known as 94 Chapman Drive, and as illustrated in figure 2 of the report, or this decision shall become null and void. 2, that the owner or applicant obtain all necessary building permits from the town's building services section, or this decision shall become null and void. And 3, that the owner or applicant maintain the existing drainage on the property, or this decision shall become null and void. For the applicant, have you received a copy of this report?
Yes, it's me, Mamuna Nisar, and yes, I received the report.
Great, thank you. And do you have any questions or comments on the recommendations from staff?
No, everything is straightforward, everything is clear, so I don't have any question.
Okay, great. Well, if you'd like, now's your opportunity to give us some more insight to your application. Otherwise, we'll pass it on to members of committee.
Yeah, everything is clear. I don't have any comment, any question. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Do members of committee have any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you. Is there anyone here to speak either for or against the application this evening? Seeing none. In that case, if we can look for a motion from committee. Cecil?
So are you?
Go ahead, Cecil.
Are you asking me to move a motion? Okay.
Is that, were you putting your hand up for a question, or were you?
No.
Or were you looking to make a motion?
No, we're past that. Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, I move to approve minor variance application A 24/21 relating to 94 Chapman Drive, subject to all staff conditions as it is minor in nature, desirable for the appropriate development and use of the lands, and it's in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaws. Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
Great, thank you. And is there a seconder on the motion? Seconded by Lori, thank you. And all those in favor? Great, application A 24/21 for 94 Chapman Drive is approved, subject to the conditions in the staff report and the 20-day appeal period. Okay. Moving on now to application A25/21 for 3010 Ebony Street. The variance requested tonight is to permit a maximum lot coverage of 39%, where the bylaw requires a maximum lot coverage of 33% or 150.96 square meters, whichever is less for a lot having a area of area less than 603.85 square meters. Eric, was notice served and were any responses received?
Notice was served and no responses were received.
Great, thank you. For the applicant, staff have written a report recommending approval of the application, subject to two conditions. One, that the owner or applicant obtain approval of site plan application SP3/21 to the satisfaction of the town, or the decision shall become null and void. And two, that the owner or applicant obtain all necessary building permits from the town's building services section, or this decision shall become null and void. For the applicant, have you received a copy of this report?
Yes, I have received them.
Great, thank you. And do you have any questions or comments on the recommendations from staff?
Nope, no questions from my end.
Great, thank you. Well, if you'd like to take this opportunity to introduce yourself, and if there's anything you'd like to add to the application for committee's consideration, now's your opportunity.
Sure, I just want to, my name is Nicole De Camargo, and I just want to thank you very much for considering this application this evening. We're asking for a very minor variance for the lot coverage that would permit us to proceed in building a home with a design that is in line with the homes in the neighborhood currently. There would be no changes to the setback allowances or height as per bylaw with this minor variance, and the 39% figure that I'm seeking includes allowance for a 10-meter square small shed should one need to be constructed in the future.
Thank you. Committee members have any questions for the applicant? Seeing none. Thank you. And is there anyone here to speak either for or against the application this evening? Seeing none. Okay, in that case, if we can look for a motion on the application, please. Lori?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move that we approve application number A25-21 for 3010 Ebony Street, as it is minor and meets the 4 tests, and provided that the 2 conditions are met.
And is there a seconder on the motion? Seconded by Cecil. Thank you. And all those in favor? Great. Application A25/21 for 3010 Ebony Street is approved, subject to the 2 conditions within the staff report and subject to the 20-day appeal period. Okay, moving on to application A28/21 for 8 Durling Rock Street. Variances requested are to permit an uncovered below-grade entrance within the west interior side yard with a minimum setback of 0.4 meters from the interior side lot line, whereas the bylaw does not permit uncovered steps leading to or from a principal building or platform within an interior side yard, and to permit a minimum aggregate setback between a below-grade entrance and an adjacent dwelling of 0.9 meters, where the bylaw requires a minimum aggregate setback between dwellings of 1.2 meters. Eric, was notice served and were any responses received?
Notice was served and there was 1 email inquiry that staff responded to, and that was provided to the committee.
Great, thank you. For the applicant, staff have written a report recommending approval of the application subject to 3 conditions. 1, that the subject variance apply only to the property municipally known as 8 Durling Rock Street, as illustrated in figure 2 of the report, or this decision shall become null and void. 2, that the owner or applicant obtain all necessary building permits from the town's building services section, or this decision shall become null and void. And 3, that the owner or applicant maintain the existing drainage on the property, or this decision shall become null and void. For the applicant, have you received a copy of this report?
Yes, you can speak louder. Yes, I have.
Great, thank you. And do you have any questions or comments on the recommendations from staff?
No, not at this point.
Great. Well, if you'd like to take the chance to introduce yourself and add anything to your application, you can go ahead now.
Okay, so my name is Juliet Hendricks, and I just have a side entrance that I'm trying to get approved.
Okay, thank you. And do members of the committee have any questions for the applicant? Lori?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just for staff, in the other comments, design services has the comment that's written beside it says ensure that continuous access is provided to the rear yard. I'm wondering if you can elaborate on what that means, and I'm wondering if this should be something that is put in as a condition.
To the chair. Yeah, so that's a typical comment that we usually look for just to ensure that someone could still access the rear yard if they were walking down that side yard. The way the steps have been designed, they're only one step as it's essentially just a below grade landing. So you would be able just to walk back up and down. How often we would typically recommend people that have full below grade steps to be designed. So it satisfies the intent.
Okay, thank you very much. And through you, Mr. Chair, to the applicant, I just wanted to ensure that that is something that you realize is one of the obligations, is that you have to be able to have no obstruction for, in case there's any sort of emergency situation, that people can get past that door.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. That's the only questions I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry. Any further questions from members of committee? Great, and is there anyone here to speak either for or against the application? Seeing none. Okay, in that case, if we can look for a motion, please. Lori?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we approve a minor variance application A28-21 for 8 Durling Rock Street, as it is minor and meets the 4 tests, and provided that the 3 conditions are met.
Great, thank you. And is there a seconder on the motion?
I second that.
Seconded by Cecil. Thank you. All those in favor? Great, application A28/21 for 8 Durling Rock Street is approved, subject to the 3 conditions within the staff report and the 20-day appeal period. And moving on to application A29/21 for 76 Cantwell Crescent. The variance requested is to permit a minimum setback from the rear and interior side lot lines of 0 meters for an accessory building or structure, whereas the bylaw requires a minimum setback of 0.6 meters from any rear or interior side lot line. Eric, was notice served and were any responses received?
Notice was served and 1 written correspondence was received in objection, which was provided to the committee.
Great, thank you. And all members of the committee are in receipt of that. For the applicant, staff have written a report recommending refusal of the application this evening. Have you received a copy of that report? Is the applicant for A29/21 with us?
Okay, hello.
Hello,
Hi there.
how are you?
Good, how
yes,
are you?
At this time, I would like to thank the committee for hearing our objection here. First of all, the shed was there for an extended period of time. I had both neighbors actually. I had one neighbor come over and actually help me, and then he moved recently. Well, he moved a couple of years ago, and he had no objection of this the building being there. The other neighbor on side of the shed, they have no objection of the shed being there. Like I said, it's been there for an extended period of time. We had a new neighbor came in, and this is why we are here. Having said that, I'm a disabled person. I'm recognized in both the provincial and federal government of being disabled. I was run over by a car at an intersection years ago, if you will, and unable to comply with moving the shed because of my disabilities. The shed itself is a Costco shed we bought from Costco, and it's a one-off, if you will. It's made of plastic, and it has an oversized wood screw, if you will. If you can imagine that, and you're putting the screw in, right, and it holds. I take that screw out. I compromise the threading. So I pull that screw out, and there's many of them there, as you can imagine. It's plastic and screws. I try and put it back in again. It's not going to be the same shed. It'll be probably be dangerous to be around because it won't hold properly, right? And being disabled, I'm more likely to get injured trying to maneuver such a shed. What mounts to be 0.6 meters, unrealistic in my point. Well, I just couldn't do it to begin with. Number two, you will, we had numerous complaints here on our property, Christmas lights, Halloween decorations. I had some shrubs planted on side of our I guess our lot, if you will. They weren't trees; they were just shrubs. Shrubs were plants, flowers and whatnot. And they approached me and they asked me if I could move it, and they told me that it was it's going to be interfering with their lot of land, one of the shrubs. And I told them I'll go and have a look at it, right? And I went over, and when I looked at it, the shrub wasn't even close to them. Like it wasn't. It's just a shrub with flowers. And they approached me later, asked me if I was going to move it. I said I don't think I should have to move it because it's not on your property and it's not interfering with your lot in any way, shape, or form. And it's the little things like that's becoming on and off, and it's tearing this family apart. To be honest with you, so
it's from one complaints to another.
It's a lot of small complaints for under the shed itself, if you will. My understanding is that the runoff from the roof is interfering with their land. I would say that their roof of their house is a little bigger than a little shed, and if it rains, then it's waters will be coming from multiple areas. The runoff from that roof would be minimal at best. I sure as hell don't think that it's going to cause any erosion on the ground. All right, I just don't see it. For personally, as I said before, I personally couldn't do it. Even if I was forced to do it, I couldn't do it without getting injured, right? And I know for something so minor, I think it's bad. This is just bad. And of course, where does it stop from here, right? And literally, where does it stop from here? We got trees, we got shrubs, I got the shed.
We got the light.
We had a security light outside years ago too. They complained about security light, and we took that down for them. Right. So some things we did for them, and other things I thought were unrealistic. So you got to balance things out here, and
we're being harassed.
We're just we're just trying to live a normal life here, right? And it becomes very difficult when you have a neighbor complain about every little thing. And I don't really think they understand what I'm going through, or even to move it. It's unrealistic for me, and that's what I have to say. I'm going to leave my wife have her say, and then we can continue on the meeting. But again, thank you for hearing us, and we appreciate it. And we can hope we can get this settled so that we can live a normal life and live in peace. Thank you.
Oh, hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Sheila Araya, and I live also in 76 Cantwell Crescent. As for my husband, we get numerous complaints from this neighbor. It's from one thing to another, every simple little things. And as what you can see, I am an ICU nurse. I'm day in and day out in the hospital. And I'm already exhausted from working every day. And then I will go home with this. I said, it's bad enough what I have to go through COVID times and until now. Because I am a nurse and I'm facing COVID every day since from the very beginning. But to deal with this, when I come home, where it's supposed to be my home, is my safe haven, this is just uncalled for. It is bad enough what I have to go through in the hospital every day because of this pandemic and because of this COVID that I have to face every day to save everybody's lives. But to go home with this and to complain every little things about our shed that has been there for almost 8 years, it's like it's kind of like doing a negative impact on me mentally and emotionally, because I am already dealing with a big thing that's everybody is dealing with, which is the COVID that I have to go through in the hospital. I could barely have a day off right now. It's because we're always short and nobody's there to work. And as what you can know, we have a wide search of the province that, we're calling for nurses to work. It's only now that we have a little bit of break from this COVID because our cases are going down because of this vaccination, which is thank God. But I've been dealing with this for almost 2 years. And to deal with this, when I go home where it's supposed to be, my home is my safe haven for me. It's like this is really doing a negative impact to me mentally. I used to enjoy my backyard and also my front, but right now it's like I feel like I have a backyard, but I don't feel like I don't have one right now. It's because every little things that we do in our yard and in our front, it's like it looks like my neighbor have something to say. I mean, one thing for sure, all of us have neighbors. And to deal with this is something that is really doing a negative impact on me mentally because of what I have to face through already at work. So this is really what do you call this? This is really like uncalled for. It's like for every little things that this neighbor have to complain on us. One thing for sure, if you're gonna see on our records, we never complain about anybody. We just want to have a peaceful life. And thank you again for listening to us and for hearing our appeal.
Great, thank you. Just to reiterate the purview of the committee, certainly understand the stresses and the challenges that sounds like you have been having with neighbor. But the committee can't comment on neighbor disputes. We're here to just simply discuss and consider the variance request to the zoning bylaw for the setback of the shed. So I'll pass it off to my fellow members of the committee. Is there any questions or comments from committee members? Lori?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just want to reiterate to you both what my colleague just said. I want to first apologize for the accident that you have had in the situation that you're in. And I want to also thank you for being a nurse and being there for us during this past year. I know past year and a half, I know it's been extremely hard on nurses and ICU nurses for sure. So please accept our gratitude for what you do.
Thank you.
But I do have to reiterate what my colleague was saying is that the situation with your neighbor, I hear the frustration in your voice and I'm sorry that it's not a pleasant situation, but we can't take that into consideration when we make our decision. And we do have a certain set of criteria that we have to think about when we do make the decisions that we make. So I just want to let you know that our decisions, we don't make them lightly. I know it appears that we go through it quickly and it appears to be light, but please know that the decisions are not made lightly. And I want you to remember that regardless of what we decide today, you have another step. You can appeal whatever decision, whether you're in favor of it or not, you have another option. So please remember that as well.
Yes.
That's all.
If you will, the other avenue that we can go through, just say we have to go through it. Is it the same procedure? We're gonna have another lot of people ask the same questions and stuff like that. We're gonna go. Is it a different? Is it gonna be different than what we're going through right now? Like basically, we have all the individual independent people here, and they're all gonna do their due diligence and what they think is right, and that's fair enough. What can we expect on the next road if we have to go there?
So that'll probably be a better question to have with staff after decision is made. Obviously, because again, like Lori had mentioned, our decision hasn't been made yet. But should it get to that stage and an appeal is made to the Ontario Land Tribunals, it recommended to reach out to town staff to discuss the procedure and what to expect at the OLT hearing when it comes to that.
Okay, and again, I'm gonna reiterate again on how we never had no issues with the other neighbor, right?
Yeah, both of them actually.
I mean, they helped me put this thing up there to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So we never expected this ever, and yet here we are.
Yeah.
In a situation to move a shed 0.6 meters, if you will.
After 8 years.
After so many years of being up there, and like I said, even if you tell me to move it, I can't move it. Right? I just can't move it. I will injure myself. Right? I mean, I know the law is the law. I know this and that, and I know how we have a complaint where the runoff is going on their property. A roof of that size is not gonna damage anything. Otherwise, our site would be ruined. Also, it's like the rain's gonna come down. Rain's gonna come down, right? The rain's gonna come no matter what. It's not the roof that's gonna injure the property. I mean, I just don't see it. And I can't stress how much that I even trying to force to make me move it. I can't move it. So
yeah, and then to begin with, like while we're living here in Ajax, it's like the number 74 Cantwell, the old neighbor. We never had any problem with them, and so does the one in 57 Hollier. And we get along with every neighbor in this neighborhood, and we never had a problem since this new neighbor moved in, and that is when it's ever started. So that's why we cannot just understand, like, you know what, is the one that who previously owned that house in number 74 Cantwell is actually the one that even helped my husband to build it, the roof of it. So, and the one in 57 Hollier. So both of them, each side, before the old neighbor, we never had a problem with it. And until now, with our neighbor as well in 57 Hollier, which is still the old neighbor, we never had a problem with them. It's only now that this new neighbor moved in.
And again, I'm going to stress that once somebody takes this thing apart, right, it can't go back together because it'll be structurally unsound. Right?
Okay. And also, if the location of the shed has a negative effect on them, then why did the current owners of number 74 buy the property after seeing the location of the shed? Because our shed has been there like 7 years old before they even bought the house. It's been ever existed in there before they even bought the house.
So it's not something that we
built it.
That we built it after they were here, right? It's not something that they were unaware of. I just put the thing out there. It's been there a long time. Yeah. And it's hurt no one then. And you know, it's I'm gonna say something here. It's pretty petty. I mean, honestly, it's such a small variance that we're looking for here, so that we can, you know.
That's why we're asking that you're the only one that can really have the power to stop this, because in my experience right now, we are being really harassed and we are being bullied by this neighbor. And then I just like, when do we draw the line in here, and when is it ever going to stop? Wherein we never complain about anyone. So it is kind of like
I
unfair on
understand,
our
but
side.
like we had reiterated already, we can't speak to neighbor disputes. You know, it is unfortunate the situation
I know, but
of, you know, the relationship between the neighbor, but we do often get
Exactly.
applications where there is no neighbors in opposition or have any issues with a structure or a matter of bylaw non-compliance that still needs to be resolved. At the end of the day, the bylaw is the bylaw, and the performance standards in the bylaw are expected to be adhered to, regardless of whether a neighbor or multiple neighbors are in opposition of a proposal, or if every neighbor in the block is happy with it and has done it, and whatever the situation is. We have to consider the merits of the zoning bylaw against the
I
requirements of the
understand.
Planning Act for a minor variance.
We do understand that.
Cecil, did you have anything?
Yes,
Cecil, did you have anything to add?
yes, through the chair, thank you very much. And I wanna express my sincere thanks, you know, to the applicant for the work that she does as a frontline worker. And my daughter as well as a frontline worker. I know that what they go through each and every day during this horrible pandemic. And you know, they put their lives on the line just so that we can breathe, so to speak. And there's no price that you could put on that. And I just want to echo what my colleague has just said by expressing sincere thanks and gratitude to you for all the great work that you do. And yeah, there was a lot of emotions here, and like the chair said, we have to base our conclusions on the bylaw. But I have a couple of questions, and I would just like to get some short answers. And my first question is to the applicant through the chair. So I think that you've answered this before, but I'd like to ask it again. And so based on the answer you provided before, I believe that you're very clear on the setback requirements on your for your application. Am I correct? I was just looking for a yes or no answer.
I'm clear on that, yes.
And the answer is yes. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so there is no doubt, there is no ambiguity as to what those requirements are, and that's the answer that I'm hearing from you in relation to the minor variance that's in front of us.
Yeah, I'm aware of it now.
But before we do not.
I'm aware of it now, but I was not aware of it when the shed went up. That's when I was not aware of it. I just put the shed there, and like I said, the neighbor helped us, so I didn't think there was going to be an issue.
Okay, thank you. So my next question is to staff, through the chair, to staff. Is there any precedence anywhere in the town of Ajax where a 0 meter minor variance setback exists, similar to the application before us?
Through the chair, off the top of my head, no. There's no accessory structure. There may be some that exist throughout the town, but through a minor variance application specifically, we've never permitted a 0 meter setback specifically for that reason, the precedent that it could set.
Okay, thank you very much. I have no further questions, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you, Cecil. Is there anyone else here to speak either for or against the application? Seeing none. Okay, if we can look for a motion, please. Lori?
Thank you very much, Chair. I sincerely apologize, but I am going to move that we do refuse minor variance application A29/21 for 76 Cantwell Crescent, as it is not minor and it does not meet the tests. Again, please remember that you can appeal the decision. If it gets passed, you can appeal it.
And is there a seconder?
Second that?
Seconded by Cecil. Thank you. And all those in favor? Thank you. Application A29/21 for 76 Cantwell Crescent is refused. Again, as Lori had mentioned, please do follow with town staff regarding the appeal process. There's a 20-day appeal period before the decision becomes final and binding. So as long as an appeal is made prior to that 20-day time frame, then you are able to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our final application for this evening, application A30/21 for 10 Ship Crescent. The variance requested is to permit a maximum area of 46 square meters for a platform having a height of more than 1.2 meters above finished ground level, whereas the bylaw requires a maximum area of 30 square meters for a platform more than 1.2 meters in height above finished ground level. Eric, was notice served and were any responses received?
Notice was served and only the one written correspondence received, which staff responded to and provided to the committee for their reference.
Great, thank you. For the applicant, staff have written a report recommending approval of the application subject to 4 conditions. 1, that the subject variance apply only to the property municipally known as 10 Ship Crescent, as shown in figure 2 within the report, or this decision shall become null and void. 2, that the owner or applicant restore their driveway by bringing it into compliance with the town zoning bylaw 95-2003 as amended, or this decision shall become null and void. 3, that the owner or applicant obtain all necessary building permits from the town's building services section, or this decision shall become null and void. And 4, that the owner or applicant maintain the existing drainage on the property, or this decision shall become null and void. For the applicant with us this evening, have you received a copy of this report?
Yes, we have. And this is Adam Biesenthal.
Great, thank you. Do you have any questions or comments or anything you'd like to add at this time?
No questions. Everything was very straightforward. I would like to say quickly, a big thank you to everyone at the town, Asif, Kathy, Eric, and Caroline. I think we were one of the last applications put through, and they were a huge help through this new process for us. We moved into this house in 2019, my wife and I, and have a new baby that's 9 months old now. And we knew there were going to have to be changes made to the deck, but we thought they would be cosmetic in nature, just to refinish and new railings. But when we had contractors in, they discovered that the foundation of the deck was unsafe to the point where they told us not to even walk on it. And it is an egress point from the rear of the house. So we have to redo the foundation of the deck to make it safe, and are just basically redoing the deck in the same size as it is and it has been for, I've been told, nearly 20 years. So again, big thank you to everybody, and we are absolutely on board to make all the changes necessary to bring everything into code.
Great, thank you. Any questions for the applicant from members of committee? Lori?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff, just a couple of questions. Usually in the very first paragraph in the staff report to us, there's a little bit of a background how the application came to play. And this one, it's the way it's worded, I'm just wondering, it just says that the owner applicant has indicated that they want to put in the new deck. Is there anything more, like was there a complaint made about it? Was there a permit applied for? The reason why it's come to this point?
Through the chair. So I don't know the whole history, but no, it wasn't from a complaint. I think it actually stemmed from an inquiry about needing a permit, which then led to everything.
Okay, and then can I just have a little bit of verification? The letter that you did forward to us that was received from a neighbor, the way that letter was written, it made it sound like forgive me because I don't have it in front of me, but I got the feeling that the neighbor felt that it was going to be exactly the same type of deck. And I just wanted to confirm that that is the case, or is it not?
Through the chair, the letter that was received, yeah, it was more so indicating, is it, going to be the same size, or are they looking to expand? And the reality is it's going to be the same size. It may look a little different, but it's going to be the same size.
Okay, thank you very much.
Cecil?
Yes, I don't know whether this is for staff or to the applicant. On condition number 2, it says that the owner applicant restore their driveway by bringing it in compliance with the town zoning bylaw as amended, or this decision shall become null and void. Can someone comment on what is required there?
Yes, through the chair. Upon looking into the deck variance, we noticed that the front yard had an illegal driveway. It was widened, I guess, previously by the previous owners. So through this, staff aren't able to just kind of turn the blind eye to that. So we do use this as an opportunity to address that. And staff have worked with the applicant to, come up with a plan on how that can be achieved, which they are in agreement with. So that's kind of just the history on that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sorry, just a follow-up question for staff there. Sorry, Laurie, if you don't mind. Was a conversation essentially that staff would not support the driveway width as it was currently, that there wouldn't be an opportunity to request that variance, or was that?
Yeah, so no, there wouldn't be an opportunity. Yeah, no, there wouldn't be an opportunity to vary the deck. I mean, vary the driveway. We wouldn't support that, especially with the changes that we actually just implemented for the zoning bylaw for driveways. So that's where a lot of the conversation came from, and we explained to them what they could do to make it comply and still work.
Okay, great, thank you. Laurie?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. To staff, out of just curiosity, what is required to bring that driveway into alignment of where it should be? Does it have to literally some of those stones be removed? How does it be brought back to code?
Through the chair, yeah. So some of the width, especially within what we would call the apron, so the portion of the boulevard, will have to be toned back. Because right now it exceeds the width permissions, even with the new provisions that we passed, which allow for driveway adjacent walkways is what we call them. It still exceeds that. And then it's just some further things like delineating. Right now it kind of flares out near the top of where the porch would be. And you could park a car there. So it's more so just kind of separating that so you couldn't physically park a car there. So little details like that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any further questions from members of committee? Seeing none, and is there anyone here to speak either for or against the application? Seeing none, in that case, if we can look for a motion, please. Cecil?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve minor variance application A3021 for 10 Ship Crescent, subject to all conditions by staff, as it is minor in nature, desirable for the appropriate development and use of the land, and it's in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaws. I move to approve.
Great, thank you. And is there a seconder? Seconded by Laurie, thank you. All those in favor? Okay, all in favor. Application A30/21 for 10 Ship Crescent is approved, subject to the conditions in the staff report and the 20-day appeal period. And that concludes the application portion of this evening's meeting. If anyone from committee or staff have any other business, we can discuss that now. Otherwise, we can look for a motion to adjourn.
I move
Cecil?
through the chair.
Great, thank you. And seconder? Seconded by Lori. Thank you. All those in favor? Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you everyone for your participation this evening. Have a good night.